to shut me right up, don't you? Look at the smirk on
End up
his
on
face.
KSL.
Yeah,
Be
that's
awesome.
right. Well, what the heck?
Packer.
People want hotels.
Shut. Okay, well, we'd like to welcome you here. We appreciate your attendance this evening. We're very grateful for your attendance and having citizens who are here, and we're grateful for certain people being here. We appreciate it an awful lot. We'll begin our council meeting by having Council Member Wright give an invocation and our Council Member Smith as the pledge.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day and grateful for the many blessings that Thou hast given us. Grateful that we can gather as citizens to make sure that our city is protected and safe, and that we might be able to be involved in all those things that needs to take place. We ask that Thy Spirit will be with us, and we ask for all of these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will the audience please arise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, you've seen the meeting's agenda. I need a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting's agenda as written.
Second.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We even have an eye from the audience. Thank you. It's okay. It's okay.
Enthusiastic, I like it.
Yeah. We'd like to welcome anybody that's here for Scouts or any for students. We're grateful that you could be here if you're here. Can you raise your hand if you're here for students or as Scout or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts? Anyone? Okay. Very good. All right. If you are, we welcome you here, and you can come up and sit with us on the rostrum, and we have candy and everything else, so we just encourage you. Patrick, you were doing something?
Trying to get my mic. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, recognition. Chief Haight, if you'd like to come up, that'd be great, thank you. And Joanne? Yes.
We're here to recognize the CERT graduates tonight. So those of you who aren't familiar with the CERT program, it's a community emergency response team. So these are members of our community who volunteer to go through 28 hours of training in first aid and emergency response to prepare themselves to help their families, but also help the community in the event of an emergency. In any emergency, large-scale emergency, first responders are going to be overwhelmed. We simply don't have enough police officers and firefighters to respond to throughout the entire community. So we're going to rely heavily upon our CERT volunteers. And so these great volunteers learned about the program and volunteered to go through the training. They go through training at home, training here. They do practical training, and then they do a kind of a graduation exercise where they put on multiple scenarios where they respond and treat volunteer victims who have all kinds of makeup and moulage and look all kinds of grossness. So, as individuals, they learn a lot to help themselves and help their families, but collectively, they do a lot to help us with the entire community. So we really appreciate them being involved in the program and dedicating time and committing themselves to the future emergency that we may have. So here we're to recognize the graduates, and Joanna's going to help me, so we'll have them come up one at a time, and then if you can file back here, we'll end with a group photo, if that's okay. So the first graduate is Timothy Anderson. And Ty Arbuckle. Joseph Butler. Okay. Darlene Carrick. Park. And Dennis Park. Congratulations. Thank you. We have Paul Gonzalez and Solomon Gonzalez. Over here. Father-son team. Chandler Haas. And Mark Jensen. Clifford Losi. Boston Matson. Royal Murdoch. Celine Pulsifer. Javier Sehegun. And Marcy Siegmiller. Okay, who's our official photographer?
Kim's suggesting you could stand in behind me. You can see you. There we go. Take a look here first. 1, 2.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time and being wanting to be involved with the community. It's pretty easy to have you come be recognized, but in case of an emergency, boy, we're going to need them. I was just reviewing watching a video in relationship to a tsunami that happened a few years ago. And it was just incredible, the need for people to help organize and to check and to do what you are now certified to do. And we're grateful that you're in the community to be willing to do that and to help the community be able to assess. It certainly is everything that the police need, because they just won't have as much energy and time and manpower to be able to do it all. So thank you very much for being willing to do that. So thanks.
And we have a city disaster drill Thursday.
Yep. Is it Thursday at 6 p.m. Okay, very good. Have we named what the disaster is? Okay.
There was an earthquake yesterday in San Diego, so.
There's what?
There was an earthquake yesterday in San Diego.
In San Diego? Wow, well,
In the message I got, it was an earthquake.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be, could be. All right, thank you very much. Okay, we have our consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Okay, it's a roll call vote because there's a resolution. Mike?
Yes.
Mindy?
Yes.
Logan?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, we need to hold a public hearing, so Brad, if you wouldn't mind standing up, Mr. Stapley, coming up and just kind of rehearsing what this public hearing and vote will be about.
So there's a project going on called the Sharp Tintic Realignment, wherein we've got a railroad that kind of goes through the center of Springville on the south side. And they're looking at taking that railroad out of service. But before they do that, they need to realign the railroad out towards Walmart to where they're bringing it through there and then connecting down to the lower part of the Sharp Tintic line. This is a UDOT UTA project. It's federally funded, and it does have an impact as it comes through our community. So as part of that impact, UDOT has sent us a letter asking us to look at the project's effect on our Kelvin Grove Park. I've got a detail up here. The area in green is the area that's impacted, and there's this small sliver going up along the tracks. The red line here would be the new tracks coming down as part of the Sharp Tintic connection point. And so these areas here are what would be impacted in the city park. That goes all the way up to here. In this area right here, there's not a fence, but the area down below is a fence, and that would be slightly impacted. They would move the fence back. There's approximately 900 square feet of the green area that would be impacted by the park. Most of it's down in the southwest corner of the park here. And there are 3 non-volunteer trees that would be impacted also. We've even talked about the possibility of spading those trees and moving them just further into the park itself. Whether they survive or not, that would be just time would tell. And so the letter that came from UDOT and the accompanying agreement that would need to be signed is stating that it's called a de minimis impact, which means it's a minimal impact. It's not big enough to go through and do a more extensive study and so forth. Again, this action that we have tonight is only regarding the park itself, and it's UDOT reaching out, UDOT and UTA reaching out to the city.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stapley. Anything else? Any questions for him? All right, we'll open this up now for public hearing. Anybody in the public that would like to make a comment in relationship to this proposed abandonment or sale or deeding over property to the Sharp Tin Incline? Anyone like to speak?
Seeing as there's no public comment, I would move to close the public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a
I
second?
will second that.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we don't have any further action in relationship to it, is that right? Or do we need a? Okay, that we've gone through the process. Okay, very good. All right, number 5. Chief Haight?
While he's pulling that up, Bradley, do you have like a rough timeline on when they will begin any kind of construction on that?
That's a tough question. It's a tough question because they don't have, the project is not fully funded yet.
Mm-hmm.
They ran into quite a bit of overruns, mostly because of what Union Pacific is requiring where the connection point would be. Can't be on the curve, so they have to go all the way up past those 21 houses.
Oh, okay.
So it would be anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
We're hearing secondhand, not directly from UTA, that they're moving this project inside the Front Runner South project.
Oh,
So that
okay.
they won't be doing this construction until Front Runner South is under construction, which is not funded. And we're hearing it should be in before the Olympics, but that's all speculation, it's all subject to much, much larger funding.
But they are going through the environmental. They have enough funds to do the environmental right now. And they had, don't remember the federal people that came from Mia Love's funeral this last Monday, and they were federal transportation people. So they were here looking over Front Runner, so perhaps to help with the funding and get things going, because I think the project is well into 2040, 2050, so a long way off.
Yeah.
All right, you're on.
All right, Mayor and Council?
Yep.
So we have an existing agreement with Nebo School District for our school resource officers. So currently we provide a school resource officer at the one at the high school, and then a second school resource officer that covers both the middle school and the junior high. So the long-standing agreement has been that Nebo School District will fund 50% of those 2 officers' wages and benefits. So it's a great agreement for them and for us. It's mutual. We'd be doing police work with the schools anyway, and so it's good that we can have partial funding to be there full-time at the schools. So this was just an update on our terms and conditions. So not a lot has changed, but I just want to run through just a few things just for situational awareness for you, so what we're doing at the schools and what the agreement is. So I just said the school agrees to reimburse half of the SRO salary and benefits. They also pay half of the overtime for after-school activities and events for the SRO to participate in, to be there. The Cindy sends an invoice. It used to be annually, but now we can do it quarterly, so that'll help us with billing and our budget throughout the year. That's just a slight change. They just wanted to put it in writing. This is new language. The SRO is to be present and available during regular school hours adjustments, any of those hours are by mutual agreement in writing. So there are times when our school resource officers will leave the campus, whether they're doing an interview at CJC or somewhere else. So as long as we're all on the same page, it's good.
Chief,
Yep.
something you just mentioned sparked a question. Are the SROs involved in other police work other than just being at the school? I mean, are there times when they do, regular police shift work and things like that?
During the school year, they're primarily dedicated just to the schools, but they are part of a detective unit, and so if there's a large case going on, they'll come out and help with the larger case. If there's a case that involves any student, like it's a referral from DC FFS, then they'll investigate that. So it may not, something may not be happening at the school. There may be an investigation of abuse or neglect in the home, but we'll use that detective that's assigned to the school for that age group to investigate that case as well. So.
And if I could, I just heard something pretty amazing today. I was talking to Lieutenant Leonard, and the SRO that goes to the junior high, she made a pretty good bust this last weekend with Lieutenant Leonard.
Yeah, there was a woman owns a storage warehouse at the south end of town, kind of old South Main area, and it's vacant. She's looking to lease it, but it was taken over by a squatter who filled it full of stolen merchandise, motorcycles, tens of thousands of dollars worth of power tools, and there's some drugs. So that individual connected to that was arrested earlier in the day for DUI. So now we're just trying to pull the whole case together. So, but it's recovery of a lot of stolen property. So yeah. So. She's an SRO. She's part of the detective unit, so she was called out over the weekend, and she came out to help with that. New language annually. I will seek out and accept feedback from the school district about the SRO's performance and what their duties are. SRO is going to walk the halls on the campus, positively interact with the students, encourage students to attend class, do perimeter safety checks, stand near the main entrances and greet students. So they really want them to be part of the campus life and to interact with the kids, and it's a great opportunity to develop good relationships with the kids. Be available to school administrators for advice, assistance, and consultation. Just so you know, if there are offenses that are committed that are Class C misdemeanors, the lowest level of misdemeanors, infractions or a status offense. Status offenses are just due to your age, like alcohol or tobacco usage. Initially, we're going to refer those to an evidence-based alternative intervention, like our youth court. They can be referred to youth services by the Division of Juvenile Justice and Youth Services if the minor student refuses to participate in the evidence-based alternative intervention. Also, if they may be referred to the law enforcement or juvenile court only if same offense, 2 prior occasions, and they were referred to the alternative-based intervention on both of the 2 prior occasions. So we're not looking to take criminal enforcement action and put kids into the juvenile justice court system. We try to avoid that, and our youth court is an awesome way to do that. If it's just a traffic offense, though, they can go to traffic court. So those are an high-level overview. Not all those are updates, just a few minor updates, just renewing our agreement with them. So we recommend that you approve the resolution to enter into this updated agreement with Nebo School District.
And can I say one thing just from my observations on the SRO position? All of our SROs work very, very closely with administrators of these different schools. The administrators rely on them heavily. They have a great relationship, and the kids in these schools know these SROs. They know them by name. It's a great opportunity for the police to make those connections, and they do a terrific job. I mean, it's just amazing the things that they do at the different schools.
Do you think we're getting recruiting from it as well? I mean, could you, like, say, because of this SRO, we have this officer today.
So
You
our,
think?
the high school, the SRO teaches 2 law enforcement classes and gets to know a lot of kids. And some of those kids graduate and want to come on ride-alongs and tell us that they're interested in law enforcement. Yeah.
If not with us, with another agency or something like that. Yeah, I know, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, even the Clout kid, I mean, I don't know how old that one was, but I look at some of the locals that we have on our force, and it's just really cool.
And there's one that's in our neighborhood who's going to go to college, and then he says he's coming back to be part of the Springville Police Department. So, yeah.
Well, the SRO is amazing. I've had some amazing experiences, and they were more like a motivational coach and a help to these kids than what maybe some people would think. It was really amazing, the program.
Yeah, they really love the kids. It's fun to see. It's really fun to see.
So at the high school next year is going to be the canine with the officer. So it's going to.
That'll be even better.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, very good. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-15, approving the interlocal cooperative agreements between Nebo School District and Springville City regarding funding and providing school resource officer services for Springville High School, Springville Junior High School, and Spring Canyon Middle School.
I will second that.
Okay, it's a roll call vote. Craig?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Mindy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Logan?
Yes.
Very good. Josh, you're up for amending an ordinance concerning land use application expirations.
Thank you, Mayor. So today, I'm in front of you with a amendment to our code that we're proposing that was kind of conceived and drafted by our lead planner, Laura Thompson. She knows the code well and she's in her 27th year of employment with the city, and this is something she's felt we needed for a long time. So currently, we don't have any adopted expiration timeline for in-process land use applications. So you make an application, we send you your comments, we don't hear from you for some indeterminate length of time. You just send us your revisions and we review them again. But once you're approved, you have a 6-month deadline to either, for like a site plan, pull a building permit, or for a subdivision to complete your improvements or bond and record your plat. And then for site plans, we have a 6-month extension and also have similar provisions for extensions in terms of subdivisions. Right now, in the queue, we have 21 applications that exceed the 6-month mark. We're proposing to specifically define land use application in our code as an application that's required by a municipality and submitted by a land use applicant to obtain a land use decision, and does not mean an application to enact, amend, or repeal a land use regulation. So what we have in front of you today is not a land use application, because it's a application to enact a land use regulation. But everything from the site plan to approve the new oil change place over by Smith's, to the recently approved Lakeside LGI subdivision at Lakeside Landing, or we just had the administrative meeting and signed the administrative approval for the Central Bank site plan today. Those are all land use applications. So the gist of what we're intending to do with the ordinance is Section A of the ordinance says in longer legal terms that an applicant has 180 days from the date we accept their application as complete to receive approval on that application. And that after 180 days, the application expires and their vesting rights terminate. Now that's something I will explain a little more. Vesting rights are essentially the right of an applicant to have their application considered and approved under the regulations that are in place at the time their application is complete. I keep looking over at John every time he moves because he helped us a lot with this, so I'm just making sure I'm getting everything right. So stop moving. An applicant can receive a 90-day extension if requested in writing before the expiration of the initial 180-day period. And all existing applications, so everything you saw on that list, well, and even shorter, everything that's currently in the queue will receive 180 days from April 1st to complete the process. And it also can apply for that 180 or that 90-day extension. So some of the considerations, pros and cons on this. On the pro side, it sets clear expectations for the applicant as to what our timeline is, and if you choose to adopt this ordinance, we will make sure it's well integrated into all of our documents and processes so it's very clear to our applicants and not a surprise. And we're never going to just wait and be quiet until somebody hits 180 days and then send them a gotcha letter. We try to stay in communication and keep everybody moving. It removes the penalty for approval. Right now, as I mentioned, if you get approved, then you have a certain time to act on that approval. But let's say if the Allens block, for example, had been almost approved and had just essentially kind of waited in the process, under the current code, we don't really have a way to say your application is expired. But since they got approval, the clock starts ticking. So it essentially creates a strange penalty for actually getting your project approved. It helps us keep our application queue current, and so we have a good handle on what is actually happening in terms of our review and development process. It improves our ability, well, not really our ability, but it improves the likelihood or improves the ability of a code amendment to be applied to the city. Each time you make an amendment to the code or change something, any application that is currently vested, as we talked about, that has vested rights, that code change or code amendment does not apply to them because they are vested in the code as it was at the time of their application. If we have indefinite applications sitting in there, that code amendment that is a council action and communicating the policy of the council as to how you want the city to develop could never apply to that project. But in this, under this proposed ordinance, if the project expires, they would need to reapply, and at that point they would be subject to the code as adopted at the time of their application. Now, if nothing has changed and the council has essentially said, hey, yeah, we haven't seen any reason to change. We have one right now with a development out on the corner of the frontage road and 4 South west of the freeway that has expired, and they're just going to reapply. We'll take a close look at it, make sure we didn't miss anything the first time, and they're going to go move right through because their application approval expired. It helps us capture the cost of extended reviews. We have one particular large project going on in the city that we have far exceeded the application revenue in providing reviews to this project. Some of the delays between applications have been, 6, 8 months, a year. Some of the oldest applications in our queue are from this project, and each time they bring us another application that doesn't meet, that doesn't address all the questions, or they take a long time. It really just eats into our ability to cover our costs and ends up really leading to smaller, more efficient projects subsidizing these large projects. So if people have to reapply after an expiration period, that new application fee covers the cost of additional reviews that we're missing now. Some of the cons is that it decreases the timeline for the applicant. It requires them to move with some speed, and that time is of the essence. It removes the vesting for stalled projects. So from the perspective, actually from It could be negative from our perspective or from the applicant's perspective, but it does remove vesting for expired projects. For an applicant, it results in repeat application fees. And a really hard one to quantify is perception. And what this ordinance and what this deadline timeline we may create if you choose, what kind of perception that creates in the development community and how that may impact our ability to provide good customer service. Well, I'll just show you since I flipped to it already. This is by quarter for our last fiscal year, what our time from acceptance to approval is. Where there's not a number like quarter two subdivision, that's because we didn't do one. And this is, as of the quarter, everything that was approved in quarter one or quarter two. The parentheses are how many days the city spent on the project, and essentially how many days it was in our court, and the total day. The top number is the total days that it was in the queue.
So, hold on.
Oh, you want to go back?
I'm not understanding what this is.
So, in quarter one, it took us 87 days to get a subdivision from accepting their application to getting them approved, and 37 of those days were in our court.
Okay.
So
And
37 of
this is just a site.
and site plan. Site plan. For site plans, it took us 58 days, and 32 of those days were in our queue.
What's the normal? Since I'm not
Our
in your
goal is
business.
45 days. In previous experience, 6 months is pretty common, and when we tell people that if they get us complete drawings and we can get them through in in 6 weeks, everyone is more than happy with that and generally surprised, because most municipalities can't commit to a 2-week initial review cycle and then continuing that based on how many iterations there are. What we've found is that the biggest variable in how long these take is how long the applicant takes to respond to comments and how complete those comments are, therefore leading to how many iterations or revisions we take.
So the 37 days was in your court of the 87. So 50 of those days was in their court trying to answer questions or do whatever needed to be done.
Yeah.
Was
This
it
is
37 days straight, or was it like they kicked it to you,
No,
came back and forth
That's
type of thing?
cumulative, just a sum of days in our court.
Got it.
Because there's this represents multiple applications, and this is an average of applications.
This is when someone comes with an application that has something that needs changing. If I came and everything was correct and didn't need any changes.
Then heaven bless you, and you would get an approval in 2 weeks.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen very often.
It's only happened once in my career.
Okay. Right.
But it tells me it's doable because that was a 120-unit apartment building on an infill site. So if they could do it, it's doable.
So just quick question on papered lots and how this is going to affect that. It's not that uncommon. The guys will go out and they'll get their lots papered, but they won't actually create the subdivision for possibly years later. How is this going to affect that?
That doesn't change that at all because this only applies to applications that are in process. We already have a full suite of code that deals with applications that are approved.
Okay. So if they're approved and they're like, okay, this is how it works, we
Then
just
they
haven't
have
started
the
moving
clock
dirt.
starts for them
It's-
to either bond
Okay.
and record or complete their improvements. And then if they bond and record, then they have a certain timeline to complete those public improvements.
And what's the timeline on paper lots?
So you would have 6 months from the date of approval to record your plat. If you were going to go at risk and record your plat after you did put in improvements. If you were going to,
After you put the improvements in.
no, you have 6 months from to either, okay, this is really confusing for me as I always try to keep it separate. You have two paths after you get an approved subdivision. You can either bond for the improvements and record the subdivision, and then the clock starts ticking in terms of getting your improvements in before your bond expires. And you've had people come to you for extensions of that through the engineering.
But that's not 6 months. That's usually longer than 6 months, isn't it?
John?
What's that? I apologize.
I mean, you get more than 6 months to put a subdivision in.
You do. It's actually a year, and you can actually. So he's talking about two different ways of doing it. If you bond and record, you have a year to put it in, and if it looks like you're not making the year, you can come to the city council and get an additional year. Now, the other way, you still have the same amount of time. It's just done differently. They don't bond and record. They just go put the subdivision improvements in, and at that, they still have the same time frame. It's just done a little bit different from the procedure side.
Thank you, John.
But wonder if they're just papering them and they don't move any dirt at all. And they
Then-
just,
There's no such thing as
Oh.
papering them to us.
oh, you can't, because you can go over to the county and separate them out though, can't you, without the improvements being in?
You
No.
You can't do that anymore?
You can if you bond.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can do it that way. And there's still people, the county will record anything you take over there. So you can go over there with meets and bounds and record. It's just when you come to build, we'll say, hey, you didn't, this wasn't done,
Where's the underground, blah, blah,
50
blah,
years
yeah,
ago. You've got to do it right today. But also, too, once you get an approval on a subdivision, I believe you only have a year to start the process as well, or the vesting rights go in that subdivision. So vesting rights, it's a very important term, and it becomes more and more important with each new legislative session. For instance, 2 years ago, they made it so if you did a single-family residential subdivision, you're vested in whatever you did, and you can't change the ordinance for those homes for a period of 10 years. But I think they've now backed away from that, and so it's kind of like vesting's very, very important term when it comes to land use. And so when you hear vesting, that's got to click. That's when the developer or the builder can go forward, but it also locks in what the city can or can't do. So
It creates value. That's
so
what the value
it
is.
does. It creates value, but if it's something that you don't like, then you got to wait until the vesting goes away to change it as a city. And that's why I like what's going on here. Is they're not vested in the application forever. It goes away in 180 days or 180 days plus 90.
Can I ask where those numbers came from? Why 180, why 90 extension?
180 days is a typical kind of long approval period, and then we actually proposed a 180-day extension, and legal felt that 90 days was more appropriate, so I would defer to John on that.
Well, one of the reasons we did that is because, and we could go 180 and 180 if you want, but when the ordinance came to me, it was 180 additional days, but they had to meet certain requirements. And once you start meeting certain requirements, then it becomes less objective and more subjective. And so I said, well, why don't we just give everybody 90 extra days, and we don't have to worry about all these requirements. But you could say, let's just change that 90 to 180, or let's just change that 90 to 60, whatever you feel like is the right way to do it. As you can see the numbers up here, 180 days would have worked for any of these projects. Now, there's not that many, but they would have.
And where does Springville stack up with do other cities do it this way?
I actually didn't survey, or I'm not aware if we surveyed other cities for their processes.
And I didn't survey either. I have been in meetings when we've talked about vested rights. Some do it this way, some don't, but I don't have a clean survey for you tonight. There's some subdivisions on the back of Hobble Creek that have no improvements in. They were put in the 70s, and they're still vested. And so you can kind of see that every entity does it a little bit differently. But I would not recommend that. So,
Perpetual.
yeah.
So, you said you'll be a little lenient with the notifications, but once it's recorded, then it has to be the 180 days, or else it won't be fair, right? So it's not
Well,
like you can do.
we won't be lenient. We will make sure that the applicants have plenty of notice as to the timeline up front, and that we give them continuing notice through the process. We won't just not say anything to them until 180 days goes by, and then on day 181, call them and say, hey, sorry, your application's expired, gotcha. But we can't be, and that lenient on the time period, which is really why I particularly like what John recommended on the extension, because the only land use lawsuit that I've been exposed to since I've been here kind of hinged on whether that timeline was handled correctly and whether the criteria for that timeline were handled correctly. So anything that's subjective in saying you do or you don't qualify for an extension is super trouble. So I really like the just everybody gets 90 days.
And what Josh is talking about is not the 180 days we're talking about tonight.
Correct.
It's after it was approved that went past the 180 days. And there was a lot more to the lawsuit, but it got kind of ugly on the 180 days was a big part of it. The other thing with it, too, is whether it's 90 or a 180-day extension, anybody can start the process over again. The difference is when you start the process over is if the city has changed the ordinance, they are then vested in the new ordinance, not the old ordinance. And so whether it's 90 or 180 days or whatever, it doesn't mean they can't come back with another application. It's just the rules might be different.
And they have to pay the fee again.
They do have to pay. Yeah, that is something too.
How much is that fee?
It depends. Subdivisions has a base fee and then based on lots. And the base fees in the $1,200 range. And then for site plans, it's similar. We, as currently constituted, it's somewhere between $1,000 and $1,400 based on what it costs us to process the application.
So on this, I would just like to have something that says that you will be, a notification at a certain time frame will be given. Besides, I know you're gonna add it to the application and everything, but I would like that a notification will be, before the 180 days is through. And then if no response from that, then at least you can say, I provided a notification.
Are you mean in the ordinance you'd like to see that?
Yes. Just because if somebody comes in, I said on my application yes, but then there was no notification given at the 180-day marks. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, we forgot to give you a notification before the 180 days was up. That was our bad.
We could do that. What that does is it adds an obligation to the city that gives the applicant an out.
If we don't do it.
If we don't do it. And if you'd like them to have that out, we can do that. But we can also just as effectively write a policy that says we will give notices at these periods without subjecting ourselves to the negative of not following our own ordinance, which we would try not to do, but we generally try not to set up additional hurdles in the ordinance to trip us up. But if you'd like that to be included, we're happy to consider that.
And is a notification just a letter? Or do we attempt email? Do we call?
Typically, we can actually set up our system to automatically notify them to the email address that they submit as the contact email address. We can also call and send a letter. There's not that many of these that it would be a burden to reach out to them 3 ways. We obviously
Just
want
seems
to.
like maybe a tiered.
If I would prefer, if we were to do a notice, is to not put in the ordinance, because I don't want us to be put into a legal situation where we might miss it and then it becomes a little bit ugly. Like, was it 180 days? Was it not? And what Josh is saying is if we have a system, a policy that automatically sends it to the email address that they gave us, then it's on them to say, okay, yeah, you did get the notice, it is in the system, and it makes it a lot cleaner on the city side. The nice thing about that too is if this group and the planning commission then want to change an ordinance, we're not arguing is it new ordinance or old ordinance, because it's pretty clear whether they got, they met the 180 days or got the extension for the additional 90. And so I'm okay doing it either way. It does make it a little bit more murky on the city side if we do require a notice. And one thing you can do, Councilmember Smith, is you can you can basically say there will be an email notice or it would be a letter notice, whatever you want. You could put any of that in the ordinance, and then we'd be needing to follow it. Now, Josh said right now
Are we
don't.
not held
What's
to our
that?
policies? So if we write a policy, could we not be sued for that same thing, for not following our
You
policy?
could be, but at the same time, it's not a land use ordinance. It has a different weight on it than a policy does, just an internal policy. One thing that Josh did say, though, is we don't have too many of these applications. The problem with that is we could end up with a lot of these applications. I mean, in the 2007 time period and some other time periods, they just start coming in. And so it's not like, hey, we have, 2 or 3 subdivisions, all of a sudden we're working on 10 subdivisions. And so it can be it can be a kind of a mess on staff side as well.
So here's just an idea, and I think Mindy and Jake bring up a really good point. And I think we dealt with this with Brad Stapley with the Public Works. There may be some merit in your area to come back to us and propose a communication policy of here's how we're going to deal with, because you're not dealing with just this. There are other time-sensitive projects that you need to be able to communicate. And I think they deserve as much right as this one that we're looking at here. So my thought would be not to put it in the ordinance on this is separate, but to have them come back with a communication so that people know what's supposed to happen, what's expected. That we're going to send you whatever, email or text or something, so that they have some communication that their house plans are going to expire in 15 days or something like that. So that's just an idea.
Well, we're happy to do that. We're actually working on that to house plans. We're working that on the building permit side right now because we have the same kind of zombie zombie applications in the building side, and we can craft a policy to help.
But I don't know. I don't want to supersede what Mindy or Jake were trying to do. I'm thinking of the bigger picture rather than just this isolated situation.
Well, I've seen where cities have made mistakes, and because it's not in the ordinance and because it's in their policy, that they still had where companies have had to come back and say, well, I never received an email, I never received a letter, etc. And so then it's come back where now they don't have to abide by that application anymore. And so I just feel like if we're going to set something new and have expiration dates, it would just be only fair to have at least something that will guarantee them a notification that they will be notified that some way, somehow, that their application is expiring. So they have a leg to stand on as well.
Another thing that you could look at just thinking through this. I mean, if the application expires, you would have to file another application. You could do it in such a way where the next application fee isn't as much. So yeah, you missed it, but it's not really missing anything. But what that does, though, to the developer is if the ordinance does change, then they're underneath a new ordinance. But that's kind of what the city wants as well, because they're trying to push that way. So there's a lot of things to think through. It becomes kind of a simple issue. We can make it very complex.
I think what Mindy's talking about is just accountability on our part, being accountable to it. And so I think there's a lot of merit to that.
Yes. How many 90-day extensions can an applicant get? Is it just the one?
Just the one, yes.
Okay, and then after that is when their investment goes away and they kind of reset.
Yeah, and that's something else. You can extend that, so if they want to, they could, give them almost a year.
Okay, I'm looking for some direction. I'll just start with Logan, Mike, Mindy, Craig, and Jake. What would you like to do? Would you like this taken back and put, from a timetable standpoint, communication inside the ordinance, or do you want to do a separate policy in relationship to communication, or what?
I don't like the idea of communication in this ordinance, but I think a separate policy would be really good for exactly what you're
Mike?
saying.
I agree with Logan. I don't want to see it in the ordinance. I think that creates more problems than we want to deal with.
Mindy?
I'd be okay with a policy as a compromise, but I would really like to see the policy be upheld if there were any issues.
So for clarity there, because I was going to answer quickly here, I mean, policies can be written with shall and mays, right? And that's one way you would get around that. So just to pin that down so we're drafting it correctly, what I'm hearing is that we should put ourselves on the hook to make certain notices from your perspective.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Craig?
Well, I mean, obviously, our goal tonight would be to decide if we're going to approve this ordinance. If we have the policy, I think that's what I'm hearing from the other council members, is that we're okay with that. I don't know what it says to the development community, and, you know, after 7 years of serving on council, my opinion of developers has gone all over the place, but I don't know how the development community is going to respond to this, but it is what it is, so I'm all right.
Okay, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to see that policy before, personally, that I'd vote on this. I'm not super hung up on this actual thing. John?
If I could, because I'm hearing a couple of things here. If you want us to come back with a survey to kind of see what other cities do with this, we could do that. The other thing, the more I'm thinking about it, I'd like some time to think about it a little bit more as well, because it might be good to put it in the ordinance. And the reason I say that, I know it's kind of against what I've been saying, is what happens when we do send a notice out and the 180 days have come and gone. And so how does that start it over? I mean, I guess we could do something in the ordinance that would give them an extension should we miss a deadline in sending out a notice. I mean, I'm just trying to think through how that would work. I don't want to get us in a situation where it's questionable whether, you know, we need to follow the 180 days or, you know, we didn't get the notice out. So
Well, my next question, and you just answered it, would probably need to go around again. I mean, if the council's preference is to continue this until we have the policy in place, then you come back with all the stuff you just talked about.
Is this time sensitive? Like, do you need this done for a reason ASAP?
No, it's not tied to any specific urgent, just,
Okay,
it's here.
thank you.
Okay, well, we have another issue. Do you want this to be moved forward, and we can do that either by me asking for a motion and it dying for lack and we postpone it, or you can just tell me that you want to have a survey and have it come back with some
Would it make sense then to motion to continue this item?
Can?
That would work.
So move then.
do you have a date specific, or do you just, when we're ready, is that what you want?
Just when, no date specific.
Okay.
If there's no urgency.
Okay, I have
Thank
a
you.
motion on the table then for
Second.
continuation. Second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I don't need a roll call vote on that, do I? 'Cause it's a continuation. Okay, good. Well, I think that's a good discussion. I really do. And I appreciate that. Okay, other items.
Mayor, I know we didn't have any public comment, but can I read this message
Yeah,
from Naomi at Sage Creek Elementary? She says, "Dear Mayor Matt, thank you for the store, rec center. We will miss you so much when you are gone. One thing that will make our town better is a free puppy shop."
Well, apparently I'll be gone, so I won't care.
Mayor, in the same light, apparently you asked for a reminder of
Oh,
senior companion recognition. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about it. Would you like it?
yeah.
Senior companion recognition.
Okay, I have on May 9th at Friday at 11 a.m. an invite to go to a senior companion recognition, and I am not going to be able to be there. You are welcome. I'd just invite anybody who would like to attend to do that. What that is this is Utah County, and it's the foster grandparent and senior companion program. So it's not a private deal. It's with the county that they do that. So I'm going to leave this up here, and if you just come up, or I'll give it to Kim. And if you go up to Kim, and if you can represent the city, that'd be great. And if you don't, it's entirely up to you.
May 9th at what time?
May 9th at 11 a.m.
That's rough.
And yes, I understand. It doesn't say where, but I assume that it's going to be probably over the county building, but we can certainly find that out. So, okay.
Oh, can I just, there's a MAG housing event going on on that same day, around that same time, from 9 to 10:30.
At the Economic Roundtable?
Yes, yes, for housing, and Steve
Waldrop.
Waldrop will be
Yep,
there.
yep.
I thought that would just be an interesting thing to attend if anybody
I'm
wants.
gonna be there, so.
Oh,
Yeah, you're
excellent.
gonna go?
Yes.
Okay, very good, very
Is
good.
that one, I have that on the 7th in my calendar. Is that-
Oh, is it the 7th or the 9th?
maybe I read it wrong though. So.
Maybe I read it wrong. I put it on the 9th.
Well,
That's a Friday on the 9th. Is it usually
So if-
Wednesdays?
If you both have it on the 9th, then I probably have
hold
it wrong.
on. I have it on the 7th.
Okay, I'll change mine.
I welcome y'all to go to that. I'm trying to see if someone's here. I went to one of those just a couple of months ago and just realized is a focus on economic development, and most of the people in attendance will be staff members focused on economic development. So if that's the slant you want to kind of hear on that, the last one was excellent, had good representatives from both the League of Cities and Towns and the county's person as well. So you're going to get good information, but it's kind of developed and designed for staff level economic development people.
But the reason I'd like to go, maybe Mindy's gonna be a little bit different, but I'd like to hear about the housing and the plans that they have. What's it called? The Beehive?
Yeah, that didn't pass.
I know, but the concept is
Yeah.
still under study.
Yes, for sure.
We have
So-
an agency or.
Yeah, something like that. Be interesting to hear kind of Steve's take on it, so.
What time is it?
May 7th at 9 a.m. in Orem.
At the Orem Mag
No,
The
No.
library.
Orem Library
Yeah.
Hall.
Library.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Other items?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
All motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.